The December 11th special meeting of the Methacton High School Board of Directors is called to order. Please rise for the pledge. Thank you. By way of announcements, the public is hereby advised of the audio and video recording of this meeting for the purposes of rebroadcasting. An executive session of the board was held on December 10th in the Farina Administration Building for the purposes of discussing contract negotiations with MEA, MESPA, Teamsters, and Act 93. By way of attendance, it looks like we have all board members except for Ms. Drummond, who is, I'm hoping, on her way. The purpose of tonight's meeting is for the board to interview and appoint a school director to replace the vacated seat to expire in December of 2019. The board received and reviewed 7 applicants, for which we plan to interview 3 this evening. And this is the board's opportunity to get to know these applicants better. Our applicants will have 2 minutes to introduce themselves to the board and will have 3 minutes to respond to each question asked. All questions will be asked by me, the board president. Once the interviewing process is complete, the board will take public comment and will then deliberate to fill the vacancy. A majority vote of the seated board will be required to fill the vacancy. If an applicant is approved, they will be required to file a statement of financial interest form prior to being sworn in. I ask that all 3 applicants to be interviewed come forward to the podium at this time, and we will randomly draw the order of interviews. So the process that we're going to follow is this. In fairness to each applicant, we're going to ask that the second and third interviewees not be present in the room before they present themselves to the board. Following your interview, you then can remain in the audience. But we need all of you to agree to that process. So are you all okay with that process?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Do me a favor, just hold your name, place it in the bag. And when we select this, the first one will be the first interview, the second one selected on the bag will be the second interview, and the third one will be the third interview. Yeah.
First is Andrew. Second, Brian. So Shannon will be there.
Okay, so at this point, Brian and Shannon, if you would mind. Thank you, Dr. Cisnovic.
Just give me a second.
So you said it was okay. We're making it up as we go along a bit. That's okay.
I apologize for the delay. In order for us to be able to move forward with the process, we do have to have the full board present, so we're just trying to determine where Ms. Drummond is. So just sit tight for a second. I apologize.
This is very uncomfortable.
I could put Jeopardy.
I was going to say, I thought I won going first.
Trying to ask you a question, but I can't. I know, and it's so hard.
Just slide it to me. I'll just pretend I got it. Right, exactly. False.
don't have a phone number, or do I stop original?
I'm okay. Thank you, though. Just trying to call him back. Just wondering why all you people are calling her. I think he has her.
She's on
I
her
heard.
way. Okay. Just wanted to make sure everybody was up to speed there.
I'm
To
okay.
the back room, and then I'll get you when she comes.
Go ahead. Take it back and explain to everybody. Okay. Thank you very much.
I apologize. I had it written down at 7 o'clock. So sorry, I know you're sure. No, no, I'm
Thank you for your patience. I appreciate everybody hanging in there with us.
That's okay.
So I'm sure, Mr. McGinnis, you're eager to get started, so we'll jump right
Sure.
in. You get, I'm sorry, I'm trying to get my place again. So you'll have 2 minutes to make an opening statement
Okay.
to us, and then we'll follow with 5 questions, and you'll have about 3 minutes for each question. Don't feel obligated to take the full 3 minutes, but
Oh, we can't now, because we're running late.
so whenever you're ready.
Okay, my name's Drew McGinnis. I'm actually an alumnus of Methacton, class of '87. I guess the question is, why am I here? I think I can help. I saw the opening and I saw the notice put out, and I think in this day and age you can either get involved or stay on the sidelines. And this school matters to me, right? I'm an alumni. I have 2 children in the school. Between my wife and I, we're remarried, so we have 5 teenagers in the house, and any excuse to get out of the house will be welcomed. But again, I think I can help because, A, I went to this school. It matters to me. B, I have a business background, education, both education and workplace. I have my master's in business from Villanova. I'm the director of operations for a utility construction company in King of Prussia. And I also teach. I'm an adjunct professor of economics at the University of Phoenix. So I can straddle a lot of different buckets. I'm a taxpayer. I'm a parent. Someone that cares about the school. But most importantly, I want to get involved. I think it's easy to stand on the sidelines and throw rocks, and I'm sure a lot of you have been hit in the head with a lot of those rocks recently over the last couple of years whenever you volunteer. And I can either sit here and say, oh, I should do this or they should do this, or I should get off my butt and get involved. So that's why I'm here, long and the short of it.
Thank you. Well, that sort of takes me into the first question. Why are you interested in serving on the board of directors? So if you have anything else that you want to add on that point, I know that was kind of what your opening statement addressed.
Since you asked, and we have time to fill, my sister-in-law ran for the board in the Upper Perkiomen School District this year. And if you've been following that disaster, she was knee-deep in it. And I just got enamored by her and her example that she set for me, and she got a lot of rocks thrown at her head. So, like I said, it comes down to the fact that I think I can help. I may be wrong, but I think I can help, and I want to try. So that's why I'm here.
Okay. What do you see as the strengths and challenges facing our school district today?
I think the strengths are the kids. You know, we have great kids. I've met several of them in my house, and although they're teenagers, you have to kind of view them through that prism. There's a long tradition here that is also part of the history and the strengths. And the challenges are just like everything else. How do you take a scarce resource of funding and make it work for everybody? You know, how do you make it the first-rate, top-notch education that all these kids deserve? How do you satisfy the teachers' needs and wants? And then how do you make sure the taxpayers can afford to live here? And there's that delicate balance that all of you fight every time you make that decision. But I think you have to take a look at that challenge and embrace it. And again, the order of operations is, how do you provide the absolute best education for each kid that we can in this school? And then go from there. Now, does that mean we get everything and we spend? No, you can't, because you have the concept of scarcity, right? We only have a finite amount of funding that we can spread over that to reach our goals and our wants and make sure it's allocated efficiently. So strengths are our kids. Our challenges are, how do we supply that strength the best possible way we can and be amazingly efficient at it.
Thank you. What do you see as the strengths and challenges facing our school district in the next 5 to 10 years?
That delicate balance of funding, all right? I think the trap that we all step into sometimes is everything is viewed through the prism of cost. What does everything cost? How are we going to afford this? And I think sometimes it's difficult to look through the prism and view everything through what the value it delivers. The challenge, obviously, and it's not an unknown to any of us, is that how do we make our funding work? And how do we maintain our levels of funding? How do we make sure the taxpayer has a fair shake at this? Obviously, they're a constituent of us. We are all taxpayers by definition, since we're in the school district. And the challenge is taking those funding and making sure that we distribute it equally and everyone gets a chance, whether it be the valedictorian to some kids that may struggle academically. How do we make sure the programs that are set for the bottom 25% academically are just as good as the top 25%? We have to look through this as a holistic prism, I think, and we have to make sure that all of those kids matter and all of those kids get all the proper attention that they deserve. And that's not easy. So when you say 5, 10, 15 into infinity, that's the problem I think every school board will face ever. You know, how do you make sure that that spectrum of constituents of those kids, everyone along that spectrum, gets exactly what they deserve?
What qualities, skills, and experience would you bring to the board?
Well, the first 14 years after my college graduation, I spent coaching. And please don't let my mother hear that. She's still wondering what she paid for that college education. But I was 4 years in high school and 10 years in college. So my strengths are teams and working within teams. So obviously you're in coaching and teaching long enough, you meet every background. You meet every type of kid. You meet every type of educational level. You meet every type of socioeconomic level. And how do you make sure that you have the ability to communicate to all of those groups? How do you make sure that you can relate to someone who's struggling? How do you make sure you can relate to someone that's maybe having a pretty easy time of it? They're all part of the team. So that's kind of where my foundation begins with. The other thing I could bring to this board is the prism of being in the classroom. I am a professor of economics. I've been doing it for about 8 years now. I've decided to do that because I like to teach. I think coaching and teaching and managing are all in the same brush. They're all synonymous, right? You have to be able to have a certain amount of skill sets that are kind of relatable to a lot of members, whether it be the board, whether it be someone that you're dealing with, whether it be vendor selection. Whatever you want to do, you can apply those metrics and it works. So I think that broad base of being a teacher and a coach and being able to work with many different varied personalities would maybe help the board.
And our final question, what are the biggest challenges facing public education today?
Obviously, I've talked about funding levels, expenses. Prices aren't going down. I think we all know that, whether it be the price of a pencil or the price of a teacher. Those prices are all going up. So how do we dictate that? That's the easy answer. The harder answer is how do we make sure that every one of those kids is getting what they deserve? Because, like I said, it's a lot of different flavors in that bucket, right? You don't know what's going on with that kid's home life. You don't know what's going on with the parent's home life. You just don't know. There's a lot of guesswork to that, and that's not easy. But again, I think the biggest thing that I've talked a bunch about right now is that delicate balance of making sure that the scarcity of resources that we will always have, how do we make sure that we can apply them evenly and equally to maximize the benefit for all of our constituents? And that includes, in ranked order, our students, our teachers, and our taxpayers. And the difference between 1, 2, and 3 on that list is that much. They're all real neck and neck. But I think you have to put students first, and then you have to put who's applying and who's interacting with them every day, and that's the teachers. And then obviously the taxpayers have to be incorporated into all of our decisions, and that's not easy.
Thank you. I appreciate you taking the time. You can have a seat in the audience.
I don't have to go back to the green room?
Nope, you get to hear their responses.
Do I get to boo? Thanks.
Number 2. Well, Mr. Earnshaw, I believe we went through the process before you stepped into the back room, but you'll get a 2-minute opening statement followed by your questions. You get 3 minutes for each question. You don't have to take the full 3 minutes, but you're allowed up to 3 minutes for each response.
Okay.
So if you want to get started with an opening statement, you can go ahead.
Sure. Good evening. My name is Brian Earnshaw, and first let me start by thanking Mr. Boardman, who, as we all know, resigned a couple weeks ago at this point, and that's the reason why we're all here tonight. I supported Mr. Boardman when he ran for the board 2 years ago, and I believe he was a great asset to the board, and I was sorry to see him leave. Also, I'd like to thank the board for the process to fill this vacancy and for inviting me here tonight to present my qualifications and to discuss my background. First, a little bit about me personally. I've been a Lower Providence resident for over 16 years now, and when we moved back here from New Jersey, we chose this area because of the Methacton School District and its excellent educational reputation. Except for one of the 8 years we lived in New Jersey, I'm from this area. I've lived here all my life. I'm a graduate of Owen J. Roberts High School, and after high school, I attended Penn State University and earned a degree in accounting. I've been a certified public accountant since 1989 as well, on active status in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. A little bit about my family. My wife and I next year will be married for 25 years. She also began her career as an accountant, and once we had kids, she elected to stay home and raise our children. And while she was doing that, as the kids got older, she went back to school and earned her teaching certificate. And she is currently an elementary school librarian in the Daniel Boone School District in Berks County. We have two daughters, both of which graduated from Methacton, one in 2015, the other in 2013. So I no longer have any children attending Methacton schools. Our older daughter this year graduated from Elizabethtown, and she followed in her parents' footsteps and is an accountant with Price Waterhouse. And our younger daughter got the creative genes in the family and is a marketing major at the University of Scranton. Professionally, as you can see on my resume, which you probably all have, I have over 30 years of finance and accounting experience. All but probably 2 of them involve managerial experience in the field of finance as well.
I'm sorry, Mr. Earnshaw, I have to cut you off there because we're at the 2-minute mark, just in fairness.
Okay.
I think you'll get a chance to probably incorporate some of that in the
Okay.
questions. So our first question, why are you interested in serving on the Board of Directors?
Serving on the Board of Directors will provide me with an opportunity to continue to contribute to Methacton. While our children were in school, I volunteered in various ways within the district, ranging from elementary school fun fairs to the Methacton post-prom activities. I am very interested in seeing Methacton continue to maintain its strong educational reputation, and I believe that my background would be of great value to the district. As I was saying before, in addition to my finance and accounting experience, I have experience in the treasury function, accounts payable, purchasing, information technology, facilities management, as well as regulatory compliance throughout my 30-year career. During my career, I have developed what I view as solid skills in analyzing and reporting financial results, developing, reviewing, and managing capital and operating budgets, developing and evaluating internal controls within an organization, and also in identifying revenue enhancement and cost reduction opportunities within an organization, and helping to work to implement those changes to achieve those objectives.
Okay, thank you. What are the strengths and challenges facing our school district today?
Strengths, I believe, as I mentioned, is the education that's provided to the children who live in this area and attend the Methacton School District. As I said, that's the reason why my family and I chose to live in Methacton and not one of the other area school districts. Another strength is that Methacton, outside of the classroom, offers many activities, be it from sports, theater, arts, the music program, that really enables the children to develop a well-rounded background. The district has a very strong and active home and school community, which I think benefits the district tremendously. And when issues arise, the community becomes involved in an effort to try to resolve those issues. The challenges currently facing the district, as you mentioned in your opening comments, there's 3 expired labor contracts that need to get resolved. There's probably $60 to $70 million in building repairs that need to get completed over the next, I believe, 8 to 10 years. Transportation issues. I believe those have been issues the past couple of years that need to get resolved and hopefully will in the near future. And along the lines of transportation, under the first student contract in 2019, decisions are going to need to be made. I believe that comes up for renewal in 2019 after the initial 5 years. Audubon Elementary School building sits empty. There has to be a plan for that, I believe, what's going to be the decision there. And as with every school district, there is always the financial challenges. What can be done to minimize property taxes and the rate of increase in property taxes, and I think that comes through looking for additional revenues or other cost reduction opportunities. And also in the line of financial from the state side, there's always a question of how much state funding is going to be coming around. There is still the continuing issue of growing PSERS costs.
Thank you. What are the strengths and challenges facing our school district in the next 5 to 10 years?
As I mentioned, the facilities plan is going to probably run out through the next 5 to 10 years, and getting that master plan repairs completed. It's going to be another challenge currently, I'm not sure when this is going to come about, but the whole school funding formula at the state level, I believe, will be an issue, if not in the immediate future, in the next 5 to 10 years. And I think one other challenge for this district is continuing to monitor enrollment. As we all know, an elementary school was closed in the recent past, and it's going to be, and I believe the projections show a continuing decline in enrollment. So I think that's going to be important to monitor and see if any additional actions are needed to address that declining enrollment.
What qualities, skills, and experience would you bring to the board?
As I stated in my opening, I'll bring 30 years of financial experience to the board. I believe I have a strong ability to analyze budgets, identify areas where changes could be made to reduce expenses or grow revenues. I have experience in working in organizations of various sizes. I've worked for a large public accounting firm, I've worked for a small family-owned business, and I've also worked for a large multinational corporation. Throughout the time in my career, I believe I've developed an ability to work with others in a constructive manner to achieve an organization's goals and objectives.
The final question, what are the biggest challenges facing public education today?
In addition to those that I mentioned with respect to PSERS costs, state funding, there's also increasing special education costs that I believe are impacting many public schools. The whole charter school funding formula, I believe, is a challenge for districts with money leaving the district that should be retained within the school district. Oh, and I think another issue currently is the whole success evaluation. There's been a lot of discussion recently about things like PSSA testing and what's the right level of that testing. Should it be reduced, changed, and the whole how do you evaluate the success factors within a district.
Thank you. You can have a seat in the audience now.
All right, thank you.
Hi, Ms. Pfeffer. So to begin, you'll have 2 minutes to make an opening statement. We'll have 5 questions for you. You have 3 minutes to answer each. You don't have to take the full 3 minutes, but you're entitled to as much of that time as you need.
Thank you. Okay, excuse me. My name is Shannon Pfeffer. I live at 2762 Lantern Lane in Audubon. We bought our house in 2001, moved into the district because of the school district. Excuse me. We're raising 3 children in the schools. We have an 8th grader, a 5th grader, and a 2nd grader. I also work in Lower Providence, and I've worked here for 13 of the last 15 years. I've been in the payroll industry for the last 15 years, 10 of which I've been a corporate trainer, and I've recently taken a position as an analyst. Prior to that, I taught 3rd grade at a charter school in Philadelphia and was a substitute teacher for STS in districts throughout the 3 counties around us, including Methacton, for about 2 years. In the community, I was a Sunday school teacher for the past 5 years, and I'm in my 2nd year as an assistant den leader for Cub Scouts. Prior to about 3 years ago, I never attended a board meeting. That was something other people did. That wasn't something I thought was on my agenda, certainly not volunteering for a position on the board. But around the time of the school consolidation, my kids were getting a little older and things actually mattered to me. I understood that things happening, decisions being made would impact not just my family, but the elderly people in my community, the business owners in my community, and I woke up. I started paying attention to what was happening. So that opened my eyes, and it made me realize that it is a responsibility of me and the rest of our community to know what's happening and to be a part of our community and our school district. I've seen the incredible dedication of the staff, the teachers, all of the aspects of the Methacton community, the teachers, the administration, the dedication of the volunteers that come into our schools and sit on this board. Whether I agree or disagree with people, these are volunteers, these are people in our community trying to make a difference for everybody. And I'd just like the opportunity to be considered.
Thank you. So that leads into the first question. Why are you interested in serving on the board of directors?
I think I have a unique position being a parent in the district, obviously being a taxpayer in the district, but coming from both a position of having been in education for some time as well as being in corporate America, I understand that there is a balance that needs to be met. As much as I'd love to give everything to everybody, I understand that there's a financial aspect to this position. And working in payroll, I know that there's a lot that happens beyond a paycheck personally. I'd love to do everything for everybody, but there's a responsibility that I think we all need to have. And as a community member, I hold you accountable to what is happening both in the education and in the financial aspects of what you do.
What are the strengths and challenges facing our school district today?
I think the biggest strength facing our school district is the community that we have. We have a wonderful, diverse community, and I think that brings a lot to the table. When my sister-in-law wanted us to move out to the middle of the state, she said, I could be your babysitter, you wouldn't need to pay daycare, everything's great. And I showed her my daughter's class picture, and I said, look at these kids. And she said, oh, they're so cute. And I said, now read me their names. She said, I can't read those names. I said, but my kindergartner can. She can pronounce them, and she understands the diversity that we live in. And I think that's one of the biggest things that Methacton has going for it, that we live in such a global community, and we see that different groups can live together and we can learn from each other. I think our teachers and our administration is doing a great job of bringing kids together and sharing those strengths. I think that's a huge piece of what makes Methacton wonderful. I think a challenge is obviously our financial situation. I've been following board meetings for the last several years, and I know that fiscally there are some things that we need to improve upon. I also think there's a big drug issue in the community in general, and I think that's something between drugs and bullying and things like that that are hitting our community in ways that didn't hit when I was a child. And I can see that life in general is getting more challenging for our kids, and we need to help build them up and make sure that they're prepared.
What are the strengths and challenges facing our school district in the next 5 to 10 years?
I think certainly the financial situation that we're in. I think this, going back to the same answers, I think we don't know what Harrisburg is going to be giving us in ways of budget. What are we going to be looking at in future budgets? Are we going to have the services that we're able to provide now? What's facing our families in the next years? Are we going to have continued lack of enrollment, or are we going to have people come into our district? What's happening in our community with businesses coming in or not coming in? I think that all impacts us, as well as, of course, drugs and other things happening as well.
What qualities, skills, and experience would you bring to the board?
A large part of what I did in my role as a corporate trainer was train customer service. Working in the customer service industry, getting screamed at on the phone for 8 hours a day, I understand that this can be a thankless position, and people are not always happy with the decisions that you make, but you represent the entire board and the entire district, and sometimes people are not happy. And there's a way of approaching that with grace and poise and composure, and I feel that I could do that, and remain respectful to the people that are not happy.
What are the biggest challenges facing public education today?
Today in particular, I think a lack of an uncertainty as to what is coming from the federal Department of Education as well as the state. Vouchers are in the news today, and I don't necessarily agree with vouchers. So it's all kinds of things are coming that unfortunately we will have to deal with. I worked in a charter school. It was a very poorly run charter school. I can say that now. They're out of business. I purposely educate my children in public education. I love the fact that we have everything from Section 8 housing to acres and acres for landowners. I think we have a great diversity here, but we also have resources that we need to provide families who can't provide as much for themselves. And I think with dwindling resources, we are challenged by that.
Thank you. You can have a seat in the audience now. Okay, at this time, that concludes the interview portion of the meeting, and I will open this up to public comment on board action items, which could be appointing any one of the three candidates who were interviewed this evening. Is there any public comment?
Jim Mollig, Worcester. This one's for the chairperson. Maybe you can help me out with this. A woman's place is in the resistance. This is one of your quotes I found on your web page. Can you explain what that means?
It's not one of the board action items this evening. I'm not clear on what your question is.
Well, I'm asking you because is that going to be a litmus test for these board people? Well, you're the one conducting the hearing here, right? And this is your philosophy. I just want to know if it's going to be a litmus test for the board people. Is this like a resistance movement, and do you want these people to be like that? I'm just asking. If that's your philosophy, do you want these folks to be part of the resistance? Fair question. Don't you think? Because that's how you feel. And if this is a resistance movement, these folks ought to know what they're getting into. That's number one. Number two, for full disclosure, maybe it's my job, should be your job. Mr. Earnshaw ran your campaign, CARES campaign. Is that true? He was your treasurer, right?
That's a matter of public record, yes.
Well, shouldn't you have informed the public? Shouldn't he have informed the public? Because the way I see it, he's your treasurer, he's your campaign manager. This is a done deal. He's going to be your guy. So what are we wasting our time for? Should have told the public. Wasting everybody's time right now. So, how about a little transparency? You know, tell everybody. Don't you think? Well, why should I tell everybody? Don't you have an obligation to come clean and tell everybody? Just saying. Because this is all political payback, right? For running your campaign? Putting them on the board?
Your 3 minutes are up.
I don't think so. I don't think so.
Dr. Malik, your time is up.
Now, I'm going to object under 710.1C again, because under 710.1C, we're supposed to be able to comment on items for official action. This was my problem last time, because we don't know who you're going to pick. Official action is defined as a motion and a vote.
I believe your objection's been noted, but your time is still up.
Well, you have to let me make my objection, right, Mr. Fry?
We do. We'll give you a couple seconds here.
Thank you. And a motion and a vote means you make a motion and then vote on the motion. I don't know what your motion is. See, therein lies the problem.
I don't know what happened at the last meeting, but you do have the information that you need tonight, which is there are 3 people being considered. You could have used your 3 minutes to comment on any one or all of those 3 people, which I think you did. You commented on Mr. Earnshaw.
Have you taken your official action yet?
No, that's why we're giving you the opportunity to comment.
That's what the law says, though.
Yeah.
I'm allowed to comment on your official action, which you haven't taken yet. See, I don't know who you're going to make your motion on.
You know it's one of 3.
I don't know who it is.
Neither do we.
Because the normal protocol is for you to take your motion, right? Then we comment on who you make your motion on. That's how it's normally done.
No, that's incorrect.
Yeah, it is. In Worcester, we do it.
Different boards do it different ways. You are correct.
In Lower Providence, we do it.
Let me finish. Some boards allow you to make comments on any agenda item at the beginning. At that point, they don't have to give you an opportunity after a motion and a second is made. And that's the opportunity you have right now. So I think your objection is noted.
The way that 710.1A reads, that's how 710.1A reads. Or you can make all your comments at the beginning of the meeting, right?
Which is what we're giving you right now. You can make all your comments right now.
Consistent with 710.1A, right?
I'm not sure what 710.1A says. I don't have it in front of me to break it down.
Well, I got it on my phone this time.
I actually have a book right here, but the comments can be made at the beginning of the meeting prior to all motions, which is what your opportunity right now. So you've had your 3 minutes.
It doesn't say that what you just said it does, though. It's got to be consistent with 710.1A.
Okay.
Which means the motion or the official action.
Mm-hmm.
You guys haven't picked anybody yet. I don't know who it is. It's the official action.
All right, you had 3, but your objection is noted, and I appreciate it, but you know it's going to be one of 3. You could have used your 3 minutes to comment on any one of 3. There's only one thing on the agenda tonight, so you had all 3 minutes to comment on all 3 people. Maybe different on different agendas where you don't know what the potential action could be, but you had one of 3 things that could happen or one of 4 things that could happen tonight.
And
Brian could be, and I'm just going from the order that they're here. Brian could be moved, could be a motion to have him on there. Andrew and Shannon, any one of those 3, or the board could not consider any of them. So the 4th motion could be none of them are going to serve.
And last time, they wanted me to figure it out with 36 options.
And that's where I'm agreeing with you. On a different issue, my opinion may be different. On this one, it's one of 3, and you had 3 minutes to comment on all of them. So this is a shorter agenda, so my opinion may be different on a different evening, but for tonight, I think the agenda was very clear on what you could have commented on.
I got you.
Okay.
Right.
Mr. Andrews.
John Andrews, Lower Providence. In my experience at a dozen or so years in this room, every school board every month has a full plate of and we've had directors resign because they didn't have the time for it. We've had directors who did not serve on committees, etc. So I think a fair question for each of the candidates is how much time can they give, let's say, per month to addressing the issues of the position. So I think that's a valid question that should be easily answered, so that we end up having a board of 9 working members to handle the complex issues presented to you.
Is there any further public comment?
Brian Earnshaw, Lower Providence. I just want to address the one comment prior to Mr. Andrews. Yes, I did serve as treasurer of the CARE organization. Did I run the campaign? No. Did I contribute to the campaign? Yes. Did I have any conversations with anybody whose campaign I helped that says anything close to, as a thank you for your service to the CARE group, we're going to appoint this vacancy? Those conversations never happened. I will point out that none of my qualifications were questioned by the prior commenter. Thank you.
Anyone else for public comment? Okay. May I have a nomination to appoint any of the 3 interviewees to serve on the Board of School Directors?
I nominate Brian Earnshaw.
Do we have a second? Okay. Are there any other nominations?
I nominate.
Sorry about that. I do nominate Andrew McInnes.
And I was just informed we don't need to have a second, so I apologize. Are there any other nominations? Okay. May I have a motion to close the nominations? Is there a second to close the nominations? Okay. All in favor of closing the nominations? We will now vote on the nominations in the order received. Should we have Okay, are there any comments on the nominations?
Yes, we received 7 resumes. I was blown away by everybody's resumes. Our job was to ask for 3 people to come to be interviewed. I wanted all 7 to come to be interviewed. For those of you who know or don't know, I applied twice to be on this board when there were open vacancies. And I never made it as far as the 3 of you. I was not chosen to be interviewed. And I decided to run. So I don't know if the other 4 people that sent resumes are watching or will be watching, but I would encourage, no matter what happens tonight, to keep being involved, and if you truly want to do this, to keep being interested. I don't know, hopefully there's no more resignations, but you never know what happens in people's lives. And then there is an election in 2 years. But I will say that I was really pleasantly surprised. And as far as why I nominated Brian, I feel like we all have a lot of work to do, and I've seen Mr. Earnshaw in these committee meetings and in these meetings for years. And I just feel like he is very knowledgeable about what's going on right now and what has gone on. So I feel that that's very valuable with all the work that needs to be done. In addition, he also ran previously, I believe, before I was on the board. And I just think that he has a strong commitment to this district. I don't think the other 6 don't either, but that is why I nominated Mr. Earnshaw, also due to his financial background, because we have several people on the board with a financial background, and it can't hurt to have another right now.
To follow up with Andrea, I was pleasantly surprised with all the applicants, and I think all three provide a lot of good hope for the future candidates of whatever, if you choose or not choose, and then participate. And I think the interesting view is all had strengths and the weaknesses that could be provide strength to the board, be it customer service, be it a teaching experience, be it related to facilities, all provide fantastic skill sets that would help this board. So I appreciate everybody applying.
I will agree. It was encouraging to see so many names come out, and I'm impressed with what I've heard so far this evening. And I will say I support the nomination of Mr. Earnshaw. I got to know Mr. Earnshaw through my own campaign to be on this board. That was how I met him, but I didn't know much about what it meant to be on the school board or what was involved with the board prior to meeting Mr. Earnshaw, and he taught me a lot of what I know about being on a board. So when I look at the amount of experience that he has in this room, in the committee meetings, and what he has contributed in terms of his comments during courtesy of the floor, I see someone who is ready to jump in, who is about as up to speed as you can be on the issues that we're facing as you can be on that side of the table. And so for that reason, I would be supporting Brian this evening.
I just want to say I think all three of you are phenomenal candidates, and honestly, I do appreciate you coming out here. I think, like you said, the other applicants were fantastic, and look forward to you staying involved in any level. The only reason why I've worked with Brian, and I think he's been phenomenal, giving us and educating us about Methacton, and I think he would be a wonderful asset. The reason why I chose Andrew is just that I feel like he has this. What comes to me is the coaching, the energy, the economics, the teaching background, the connection between the teachers, but this economic and philosophy, and brings up a different light that we don't per se have on this. I think coaching is a huge thing. Like you say, you deal with so many different people, and we deal with so many facets here in Methacton that we need someone to help us build our relationships and our communication better. I think we are trying to market Methacton, and we need to change that type of feel. So I just think he has those skill sets that we need on the team. So that's why I nominate him.
First, I just wanted to say thank you to all three of you for coming this evening and your responses. You were obviously all very well prepared. This is one instance where I can say that this is a nice night to be a board member, because I can honestly say there is no wrong decision here. I think that all three of you would be phenomenal on this board. And I would just like to say that whichever two of you are not appointed this evening, that you do stay involved, that you do come to the board meetings and the committee meetings. Part of what we've said all along is that community involvement is what we need. So if you do feel passionate about this, please continue to come, stay involved. And if you do decide to run in 2 years, we'd like to see that. So thank you all.
I will also take this opportunity to thank everyone for coming out tonight. And I was impressed with everybody, with you three and with the other 4 applicants, and it was really wonderful to see all the interest in serving on the board, so it's great. I was particularly impressed with Mr. Earnshaw's past involvement in Methacton, his specific knowledge of the issues that our district is facing, as well as his financial background. So that is the way I'll be voting tonight. Thank you.
If there's no other comments, then we will now vote on the nominations in the order received.
Comment.
Oh, yes.
Excuse me. Thank you, all three of you, for being here tonight. As everybody else said, I think the fact that we had such great candidates apply is fantastic, and I think that all three of you will make good board members. The fact that all three of you could make good board members, I think, needs to weigh on this board's decision. I think the optics of political cronyism and bringing someone involved that was so heavily involved in our campaigns strikes the wrong chord with me. I think Mr. Earnshaw's financial credentials are clearly above reproach. But I also think that there's a bigger picture here that I think both the other candidates brought as far as seeing things beyond simple dollars and cents, and I think that's something that we all need to consider. The experiences of the other two candidates, their management experience, Mr. McGinnis's coaching experience, I also think that's a critical part of what we do. The ability to work in a team, as a team of 10, Dr. Zerbe, I think in all of our conversations so far, you might have said that 3 times. The ability for us to work as a group, to me, is critical. I think the fact that Mr. McGinnis brought that out in the forefront and recognized that is critical. I'll be supporting Mr. McGinnis.
I would like to echo what everyone else is saying and thanking you for attending tonight, for your passion and commitment to our community, and for putting yourself out there to apply for this position. I do know from my own time spent in this room that I believe that our focus, from my standpoint, needs to be on the financial aspect of moving forward with the challenges ahead of us, especially in the short-term and long-term, and the impact on public education. And based on his responses and my personal knowledge with him, I would support Mr. Earnshaw.
I will just add, because a term was used that I wasn't comfortable with about political cronyism, just that my decision, because this was so hard and I had trouble picking the 3 to be interviewed, is not at all about politics. When Mr. Andrews brought up the time factor, and we didn't ask that, and that was a good point to make, is I have seen Mr. Earnshaw at many committee meetings and many board meetings, and so I know he has the time, and I apologize to the other candidates for not asking that question. But it's a very, like I believe it was Mr. Ryan said, we're in a win-win situation here because we have good candidates and people that are involved, and I so hope all of them are still interested in 2 years or less if it need be, and that's another part of my decision.
Okay, now we'll vote on the nominations in the order received. All in favor of approving the appointment of Brian Earnshaw to serve on the Board of School Directors for a term ending December 2nd, 2019? All opposed? Okay. Okay, so with that, the motion passes. Brian Earnshaw is appointed to serve on the Board of School Directors for a term ending December 2nd, 2019. Mr. Earnshaw will be issued the oath of office following his filing of the Statement of Financial Interests form. Okay, at this point, we can open it up to courtesy of the floor.
Suzanne Andrews, Lower Providence. I just wanted to say that you had a very difficult job this evening. You did have as you all said, you have wonderful candidates, and I would imagine the other 4 were as well qualified, and I appreciate that you did make your choice the way you did, because I know that Mr. Earnshaw has been at a lot of meetings, and that really is important to know before you get on the board, that some of the issues, and so that you don't have to start from square one. Thank you.
Jim Malik, Worcester. Well done, Mr. Navarette and Ms. Cancro. Mr. McGinnis, I'm sorry. You never had a chance for a couple different reasons. One of the reasons was I think I heard taxpayer more from you than I've heard probably in the last 10 years. You did recognize the importance of taxpayer.
Dr. Malik, your comments have to be addressed at the board and not at audience members.
I'm talking to you right now, so you know. Why didn't we move courtesy of the floor to the next meeting like we did last time? Can you tell me?
It was different circumstances.
Yeah, I guess must be. Here's some facts to sum up the problem here we have at our school. We have head of the teachers union, Diane Kernop, making $99,999. We have 7 teachers making over $100,000. We have 70% of taxpayers with no kids in the district. It costs $23,000 to educate a kid here at Methacton. This is no longer a public school. This is a private school. $23,000 to educate one kid here at Methacton. Okay? Every board member here has children in the district. And you guys are going to take the exemption to make it 3.75%, to stick it to the taxpayer. Now, taxpayer is the problem. And you guys are taking money from the Democrat Party and the teachers union. We got 76 teachers making over $99,000 and $50,000 in benefits. Now, you just appointed a new board member who understands the problem. He was the one telling you about the budgetary concerns and all these other things. Maybe you should listen to him. And negotiate a teacher's contract where you don't give away the farm. Because we got problems. The taxpayers have problems, and and the kids are going to have problems when you're going to have to lay off teachers and cut programs when you give away the farms to the teachers. So I want you to think about that.
Anyone else for courtesy of the floor? Okay, can I have a motion to adjourn? Second? Okay, the meeting is adjourned.